Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com, and thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action and see what these fantastic products can do for you and your school. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sidelineinteractive.com for the best video boards and scoring tables out there. We also want to thank our new sponsor, Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also give the 95% of the players and parents who love your program a voice and help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticservices.com and check out their testimonials, and then call 1-800-738-6466 or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement, along with hometown ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Finally, we want to thank Ephesus Lighting, Camp Mobile, Vital Signs, and Gipper. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going back to Ohio today and visit with Kevin Calver. He's a longtime Ohio athletic director, but he's currently working with the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and he also is the director of the High School AD Network. We're going to talk about all of those things, but Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jake, you're great to be on. I appreciate you having me.
Well, like I said, we're excited to hear what's going on in the Midwest and all the things with your venture, High School AD Network. Let's go and get started with you. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school and college, and how your journey is taking you to this point so far.
Well, I grew up in Shelby, Ohio, which is where I presently live. Family-wise, I have three sisters, all younger. I'm the oldest and the only boy. Went to Shelby High School. I was active there in high school sports, and went on to Bluffton College, which is now Bluffton University, and participated in football and basketball. And wanted to be a teacher. Wanted to play. Was a phys ed teacher and a coach. Kind of bounced around a little bit. The joke, a real good friend of mine was a superintendent here at Shelby I went to high school with. And he used to, anytime we talked about me, mention that I couldn't keep a job. I bounced around so many places, but each time was a climb, climbing that ladder.
Yep.
And ended up being an athletic director at Shelby High School, then the assistant principal. And then I retired 3 years ago. And during that time at Shelby and actually at Brookville, I got involved in the OIAAA the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Association. And then also when I was at Shelby, I got onto the Northwest District Athletic Board, which is a part of the OHSAA that runs all high school events in Ohio.
Yeah, I always love to hear the stories. And again, I've got a similar path, stopped at a number of places, especially early in my career. And I was always kind of jealous of those coaches that, they spent 35 years at the same school and they had kids that they had taught. And then one of my friends who had done that, I was saying, Steve, I'm really jealous. You've been at this school your whole life. And he turned it around. He said, Jake, I was always jealous of you. You got to see so many different places and impact so many different schools. So it's, whatever job fits you or jobs fit you, it's all good. So, well done with that.
I kind of joke that I've had 7 first years. So.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Okay. Talk a little bit about that path from teacher coach to that first AD job. How did that happen? What were some things that maybe surprised you a little bit?
At the time, I was a high school phys ed teacher and a basketball coach. And they say there's 2 types of coaches, those that have been fired and those that are going to be fired. And I got to be both of them. And during that time, I stayed at the school where I was no longer the basketball coach. I was the head golf coach. And then I became the head tennis coach and coached for a while there. And then I wanted to venture out and my whole life was sports. I want to stay involved with sports. My children all played high school sports and college sports. And actually one's a college women's basketball coach. Another's the associate college athletic director. And then my youngest son is an attorney in Chicago. But we were always involved in sports and I was all about that. And so I wanted to get involved, having coached so many different sports, so many different levels. I felt being an athletic director would be right down my avenue. And I got an AD job, and this is crazy. I was athletic director and part-time elementary ed teacher in intervention. So I taught 2 periods. One was 4th grade math, and one was 2nd grade language arts. And then I was AD. And I have to admit, this is a little side note, that I truly appreciate what our elementary teachers do and the fact that they're real troopers, they're real warriors on the front lines with me just teaching those 2 classes each day and those young kids. I couldn't imagine being in the classroom all day with them and trying to handle what they do there. But kudos to those elementary teachers. But so I ended up being a teacher / coach. I was on the teacher pay scale. And it came a little bit of a bone of contention because they wanted me to evaluate coaches. And from the teachers union side was, well, how can a teacher evaluate a teacher? So it became an issue where they had to go to the board and they had to give special approval. And they kind of fought through that a little bit. But that was an experience for me. And again, that was at a time when technology was just coming out. And so I had a little floppy disk drive on my little computer, and then I was getting into some things with some ADs, and we were trying to experiment on how to send contracts back and forth and so forth. And so it was kind of a change. It was interesting. My wife and 2 children lived in Ohio in Shelby. Well, actually, it's Belleville. And I drove 2.5 hours to my AD teaching job in Arcanum. And so I would leave on Monday morning at 5, work, stay with a friend across the street, take my clothes in and out each day, and then work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night because I had nothing to do and knew no one around. And then on Fridays, if it was an away game or home game, I'd watch the game, I'd take off after the game and get home at 1 or 2 in the morning and spend the weekend and do it all over again. That lasted for about 6 months. And finally got moved and life became easier. But the biggest part of the AD job that surprised me was you're never finished. When you go in the office that morning and you go home at night, you don't show off the light and say, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow? And you go home. It's, okay, I got to get this done tomorrow. I got to get this. So I was never finished. And I learned once my wife and kids moved to Greenville is that you got to leave stuff on your desk and you can get to it tomorrow. So the big part was learning to prioritize. What do I need to do now? What needs to be done in the afternoon or what can be done tomorrow, and put things off that I don't have to do at the present time, because I was never getting it done. With my OCD, I want everything done nice and neat and tidy, and that just wasn't the way it was going to be.
Yeah, boy, I can relate to that. I think one of the best inventions for an athletic director has been the programmable lights. So whether it's in the gym or the stadium, you can just say, hey folks, thanks for coming. We're out of here, and the lights turn off on their own. But I can relate to that. Kevin, one of the things we always like to talk about with the interviews is the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So who were some of your mentors that you had, either family members or coaches growing up, or maybe people you worked with or worked for? Who's had an impact on your life and helped get you to this point in your career?
Basic starting out would be my parents, and they're pretty much made the foundation of me and who I am. And the idea that if you're going to do it, you do it right. Do things right. Be nice to other people. Treat others how you want to be treated, and do the right thing. Looking as I was getting older, and this is kind of a positive, negative. A lot of coaches. Been involved with, like I said, many sports growing up. Lots of different coaches. And I learned probably more from coaches that I didn't think were so good, or from negative situations I was in, than I did from positive. And and then I think that's another part. We talked about jumping around from school to school. Another piece of that was picking up ideas and things at work. And right out of college, when I got my first AD job, I didn't know everything, and I had to learn. And Fred Maddox at Greenville High School down in Darke County in Dayton was a huge impact with me as being an AD and starting out. Was a great teacher those first 3 years. Pay attention to detail. Make sure that you treat all sports the same. You're not just a football AD or you're a basketball. I was a basketball coach. I was a football coach and a baseball coach. And one thing he iterated time and time again was those girls in volleyball, those kids in cross country, those kids in swimming, those sports are as important to them as the sports are to those football players and basketball players. So to be a good athletic director, you have to be able to maintain that same level of expectance, or what you want to see happen in all your programs, not just the favorite ones or the special ones. I think that's something to hit hard. And I think that it made a little more sense to me being involved coaching team sports and individual sports with golf and tennis, and then basketball and football and so forth. You can see, how the kids treat their sports, and they should all be created and worked on the same from one to the other. So I think that was probably the biggest part of that was, be an athletic director, not a football director.
No, and I can relate 100%. Much of my career was as an AD/head football coach, and I tried to approach it in that level because I just never wanted anybody saying, "Oh, all he cares about is football." But no matter how much he did for those other sports, and I think I did quite a bit, as you did, there's always going to be that target on your back. We are visiting with Kevin Calver, longtime high school AD in Ohio and the director of the High School AD Network. We're going to hear a little bit about that venture when we come back. But first, let's hear from our podcast sponsor, Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast. We're back with Kevin Calver. Kevin, you have for the last few years, you created and now you run the High School AD Network website for our listeners who might not have been there. And I encourage you strongly to visit it because really cool services. What is it? What is High School AD Network, and why should athletic directors take advantage of it?
High School AD Network is a communication platform for athletic directors. Actually, it kind of evolved out of my need as an AD back when I was working in 2004 and 5. We always had schools in our first meeting in August that one school dropped freshman football notoriously, another one dropped JV football. And so we're sitting at a meeting in the first week of August, and I find out I got to come up with a freshman game on week 6 and a JV game on week 4. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Who do I call? What's going to happen? And so I was a tournament director for the OHSAA at Shelby High School. And I was also involved in the Northwest OI AAA. And Northwest OI AAA, I was the president for 2 years. So one of my goals there was to try to get every AD to attend our functions and be a member of our association. So I had all I started gathering ADs' email addresses and running tournaments for the OHSAA. They would send out an informational email to all the tournament managers. And so I would have hundreds of emails addresses for ADs around the state of Ohio. So I got this idea. I'll grab all these email addresses, I'll put them in a listserv, and I'll send out emails for people, actually for me, to find games. And then it became, well, I could do it for other people as well. So for about 13 years, I did this on my own. I gave ADs an avenue or a resource to find games, scrimmages, advertise if they want to sell used equipment, if they needed to hire coaches. And I would do this, and it got to be pretty lengthy times. I'd spend 3 hours a day, one of my full-time job. So I would get up in the morning at 5 o'clock. I would take my lunch hour. I would go at dinner. If my wife would take our dog for a walk, I'd jump in real quick and try to answer some email and send them out for them. And about 2000, late 15, 2016, my youngest son, who's a finance major and now the attorney, came to me and said, Dad, we can do this on a website. You don't have to do that all the time. It works for you. All you have to do is monitor email. And so he got with one of his best buddies from school, who's our technology director, who's into coding, and they came up with High School AD Network. The nice thing is, the tough thing is there's only 3 of us. The nice thing is Devin does all technology, Trey does all legal and finance, and I do all AD. So I can't tell them what to do. They don't tell me what to do because we each have our own jobs. But it's evolved quite well. And we're the official AD communication platform for Section 5 in New York. We've also joined with the NJSIAA in New Jersey, and all of their ADs use our network. We have over 3,000 accounts, over 3,100 actually, and it's growing daily. We're in most states. Some states have more members than others, but it's growing, and it's nice because they send out an opening, and we've had one school within 2 minutes had a game. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but the idea is that you can send what you want to who you want and as much as you want. So if I need a football game and I go on in Ohio, I'm in the Northwest District. So I pull up that site. Once I'm a member, I pull up the site and I send football. Shelby needs a football game on the 3rd week on September 18th. Can be home or away. Contact me if you're interested. And I can pick what districts I want to send it to. There are 6 in Ohio. I can send it to all 6 districts or any 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And I do it when I'm ready. I don't have time. So a lot of, like, if you send to your state association, they put it on their website, on their open date page. And when they get to it, they'll get it posted. And you may go on and look there, and it's been there for 6 months. You don't know if it's filled or not. With High School AD Network, it's real time, up to the minute. They have it. And if they're interested, they hit reply button on the email, and it goes right back to the AD and say, hey, we're interested, we'll play. It's been surprisingly well received. And the tough part is, with only the 3 of us, getting the word out is hard. We're kind of the best kept secret, if you will. But that's growing daily. And again, the more people that use it, the more people will use it because they know what's going on and how it works.
So we'll do this again later in the podcast, but for our listeners who are listening in, how do they get to your site? What's the website address?
It's hsadnetwork.com. That's an abbreviated version of High School AD Network. hsadnetwork.com. They can look around. They can see what's on the site. They want to sign up. It's pretty quick and easy. The other nice part is you customize your account. There are some listservs out there that I belong to in other states that when I send out an email or they send out an email, it goes to every person. I've had people sharing passwords over their site, and we all get it. I get passwords from ADs in other states, and it's like, that's probably not very good. But you can go on and you customize your account. So by that, you say if you want middle school, high school, or both. You pick the sports you want to have information about or send about. So if I don't have ice hockey, I don't select ice hockey. If I'm an all boys school, I don't select volleyball or softball. So you can customize your account to get what you want. We have you can find job listings. So if you want to click jobs, you want to click equipment. And that way, if a person sends out that they need a head coach, that goes out to everyone that's clicked on that job listing. We also have over 100 and some, 120-ish, what we call job seekers, that are people that have signed up that are looking for jobs. So just another avenue for them to be able to go out and see what's out there. It may not happen for them every day where they get something they can apply for, but it's always out there. It's a possibility of just another avenue. And it's good for schools. I've had several schools that advertise teaching jobs as well with that site to get the word out to as many people as possible.
All right. I'm a professional podcaster and now I'm unmuted. So hsadnetwork.com, highschooladnetwork.com. Make sure you check it out. Some really cool features. Kevin, another thing we do with the podcast is we try to share some best practices, and your network is certainly one of them, but you're a longtime AD, you've been in Ohio, you've helped run tournaments. What are some best practices that you've seen that you can share with our listeners? Do you got one or two that you just really think are top notch?
Well, you can get into communication. I think an important topic for athletic directors, obviously high school AD network. But coming out of the athletic office back when I was AD, we had email, we had text. And today, with all the different features out there, to be able to reach out to your people, your stakeholders, using social media, be it an example is Gipper, be able to put information out for your people. They need to find some avenue in social media because it's such a high profile area now, and it's tough for them when using that social media. Obviously, you can't do everything yourself. And so as an AD, you want to have some people delegated to help out if possible, but stay attentive. You want to be attentive with what's going on. You want to make sure that you are able to cover all those avenues as we talked earlier. Now you can be, as some ADs have said, I'm just going to do what's come from the athletic office. Everything I send out is athletic office. I'm going to have the coaches get into who won, who lost, player of the week, all those other things, to try to hand out that time because there's not enough hours in a day. So, again, going back from what I've talked about earlier, is if you're going to do it right. There's only one thing worse than not using social media, and that's using it poorly. So, you want to make sure that you're doing a good job with that and staying up on it, because right now that's the way everybody, we used to use newspapers. That doesn't happen anymore. We used to use the telephone. That doesn't happen anymore. Those things are kind of gone in the past. So what you use, make sure you do it right and you do a good job with it. I'd also probably get into the forums that we have. When I was an AD, I came up with a great idea. I even presented at a roundtable for us. I had orange card, green card, and blue card. Orange card was your emergency medical form. Your blue card was your insurance, and your green card was your training rules. You signed off. And it was easy. We could file them in a little folder, and it was easy to get in and out. And they could keep it the whole year. And if they didn't change any information from one year to the next, we just kept it on file. You have to change that out. And so that was something we thought was awesome. One thing they come out with family ID. Final form. Some of those companies now that everything's online. And so obviously one thing I would mention is, find that forms program that you want to use and write it. Same way with paying these days, some of those, you have even a pay slot where you can use to pay fees and so forth. But use that social media aspect to, again, something we base our network on. is quick, easy, and efficient. Everybody wants quick. And one thing I learned as an AD, if I get something that's I got to read 3 or 4 pages, I'm probably not going to read it. I might scan it, catch bits and pieces. Who knows what I'm going to miss? I'll catch it and throw it in a pile. But if it's a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, something quick and easy, it's been a little bit more time for me because the number of hours in a day, I don't have enough. So quick, easy, and efficient is kind of wins the race for my part, I guess.
Oh, no, absolutely. And you're right about the online forums. They've really, changed the game for athletic directors. Just so much easier than, having files and files and forms. We are visiting with Kevin Calver, Ohio High School Athletic Association, and the director of the High School AD Network. We're going to continue with our interview, but right now we're going to take a quick break and hear from another one of our podcast sponsors. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every single year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action, and also see what these fantastic products can do for you and your school. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We're back with Kevin Calver, director of the High School AD Network. For our listeners, we're recording this on August 24th, so it's going to be pretty timely by the time you listen to it. Kevin, we just about a month ago got watching the Olympics and saw some really great performances. Also saw an increased awareness and discussion about mental and emotional health. Simone Biles in particular, very candid about some of the challenges that she faced as a world-class athlete. My question for you is this: how can a athletic director, a high school athletic director, find a good balance between what might be an old school approach of, come on, you got to be tough, you got to get back in there, versus being aware and sensitive to some of the challenges that a Generation Z student athlete is experiencing, maybe on a daily basis? You got any advice for us?
Well, I think a big part of that is knowing the athletes, for that matter, knowing the coaches. A lot of times, when I grew up and played, it was you go play. You're not hurt. If you're hurt, you don't play. If you're injured, you got to sit out. If you're hurt, go play. No big deal. Go get after it. You got to go. And so it was almost an expectation that unless my leg was broken, I was going to play. But I think, with today, especially, and I know Michael Phelps brought it up back when his Olympic when we went to the Olympics, that we need to get to know the athletes and who they are, and know the difference between, and like that as a coach, who do I yell at and get on pretty hard? Who do I have a soft conversation with? Who do I have a pep talk with? I may try to accomplish the exact same goal, but handle it 2 or 3 different ways depending on the type of individual I'm dealing with. And if you don't know the kids, if you don't know the backgrounds a little bit, that's going to be tough to do. So, being able to deal with individuals, you deal with them individually. And how do I need to do that? And that's a tough part. And that's one thing that I always prided being an athletic director, is that I didn't just sit in my office and push papers. I was out and around. I love sports, so it made it easy, but I was around with kids all the time. And even when I was assistant principal, the kids got in trouble. And I try to get to know them. What makes them tick, and how do things work for them, and what are they going through? And a lot of times people say, well, that wasn't fair, what I did with this. I said, but you don't know the situation. What I did to this individual was just as impactful as what I did to that one over there, even though there were 2 different punishments, if you will. And so I think the big piece is getting to know the clientele, getting to know who you're dealing with. The other part of it is back when I grew up, it was train 24/7, get it done, go as hard as you can, and happen. And as I got older, I realized that sometimes less is more. Sometimes I did better, or teams did better when we had a little bit of time off. to rest and recover and appreciate being there. And I think the fact, and that's something that Simone talked about, all the training she's had, and she's been through. You sometimes wonder, when's it enough? When have we done with enough? And it was crazy because there were times, and later in my career, I got into coaching 8th grade basketball. And I wish I would have known then I wish I would have known when I started coaching back when I was 26, what I figured out when I was 55, the difference of kids and how to handle them and deal with them. And we would take a day off before a game, or we would go in for a day, and someone, we always had to do a shoot around. Well, why do you have to do a shoot around? You take a day off, it's okay. Go. If we couldn't get a gym time, and then that happened on one occasion, we couldn't get it in the gym because of what was going on. It was occupied. I said, well, we'll take the day off, rest, relax, go home, recover, be ready to go tomorrow and be fresh. And so, sometimes that less is more attitude that I took, or that I feel could be implemented, can go a long way. I got into that when I was athletic director with our cross country runners. Our cross country runners were our long distance runners, and they were also indoor track distance runners. And before indoor track became real big, when I was AD, I tried to get our distance runners, because they would run all winter. I tried to get our distance runners to swim. I wanted them on a swim team to swim the 500 meters, or the long distance race or swim wise. I said, you're in the pool, you're working the same muscles, but you're not beating on your joints, right? You're still working on your cardio. That's a different function altogether. And it's not run 24/7. Now, I only had 2 people in 5 years that took advantage of that. Listen, but the idea being that less is more, get away for a little bit, take some time, experience something different. And again, I don't know that that's a proven recipe for dealing with mental illness or mental health. But it's something I do. Is sometimes I got to get away. You got to stop and just go and refresh and regroup. And we talk about that with ADs all the time. We have one AD that talks about resting the think tank. You got to rest the think tank, get away for a week. And he's talking, it gets his mind refreshed and recovered. I always believed as an AD, between seasons, I always took a weekend to get away with my wife, 3 days and 2 nights. And even if it was 60 miles down to Columbus or 60 miles the other way to Cleveland, we went away for 3 days and 2 nights. We didn't worry about our cell phones. We had no worries, no problems. We just relaxed, enjoyed. If we even sat outside the pool, or we went to a movie, or went and watched a concert, or whatever, got away. Just to get away from everything we were doing and come back and then start again. You got to refresh. And I think that's the same way with athletes. They got to refresh.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you used that phrase, less is more. And, another way is, diminishing returns, for, additional training. It's not worth it. The payoff's not there. And that's certainly been documented. And you probably scored some extra points, with the wife getaway, Once again, we were visiting with Kevin Calver, longtime Ohio athletic director, and the person who runs the high school AD network. We're going to be back with our Toolbox segment after we hear from our brand new sponsor, Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack is a brand new sponsor for the Educational AD podcast. And Athletic Surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect some comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also gives the 95% of the players and parents who love your program a voice and help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then call 1-800-738-6466 or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com and get started. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Take your program from good to great. Well, Kevin, this has been really cool getting to know you. We've traded emails, and I think we've commented on each other's posts across the World Wide Web, but this has been kind of fun. But we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with the Athletic Director's Toolbox, which is now the Athletic Surveys Toolbox. So I'm going to put you on the spot. You know your way around an athletic department, but right now I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 things are going to go in the athletic directors or athletic surveys toolbox for Kevin Calver?
Well, my first is going to be high school AD network.
Of course.
It's quick, easy, and efficient. It really takes a lot of time off the plate of athletic directors when they're dealing with some of those topics. And we have several different areas that they can use the network for. And it's been really receptive. We're over 3,100 users, and I think that's something that I would definitely put out there. Second of all, they talk about being organized, but be efficient with what you're doing. And if being efficient and organized kind of goes hand in hand. You got to know, as I talked earlier about trying to get done before I went home, I'm not going to get done. So I got to be able to make sure that we have, a setup of what do I want to do first, my order of events, what's going to happen. And so make sure that you have, I put together a list every day and check that list off. And I didn't get them all checked off, but I had that list. I made the list to know what I was doing. So I guess I'll go 1 with high school AD network. 2, we use a checklist, right, for being organized and efficient. And the next thing is be transparent. Make sure that you're doing what you say you're doing. Hold yourself accountable to what's happening, and make sure that you've got set in your mind what you want to do, so it's not that hard to be transparent. Transparency is tough, and I guess I'm going to kind of throw in maybe 4, being consistent what you do, and that's kind of tough. That's why I talk when I was the AD. I got to do things what is best for we, not for me. And so, I kind of jumped around a little bit there, but it's pretty tough job to take care of in the athletic office. You're, as I've always been coined, AD is all duties, and finding the best way to do those all right is pretty much what your toolbox is all about. So, hope I answered that okay.
Oh, no, absolutely. And some really cool ideas for an AD who's just starting out or a veteran AD. Kevin, we already gave out the high school AD website address, but let's do that once again. And also, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain, how can they contact you directly?
The website is hsadnetwork.com. And to reach me directly is kcalver@hsadnetwork.com. So it's KCALVER @hsadnetwork.com.
Okay. And you're very active on various social network platforms. So Kevin Calver, High School AD Network, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Hey, appreciate it, John. Thank you, and have a great day.
For listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews are also being uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks for listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.